Are you live or?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we're
Yeah, I am
here
live.
now.
I am live.
Well, oh well, people can hear this. This is beautiful stuff. This is what we're talking about. So
Anyways, mate, let's get straight to it. As
let's get to
we,
business.
yeah, let's get to business. Right, so we're in the loading screen right now. But anyways, let's do the intro. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bahrain Grand Prix. We are here today for Tier 1 action in the Kona Racing League. This is round 11 of the championship out of 16. And today I am joined by Stevan, once again, mate.
Hello, hello, hello. Glad to be here. Even though I've got my dinner, I will still be commentating alongside Jamie, and I'm looking forward to this race.
Yeah, me too, mate. The Bahrain Grand Prix always puts on a good show, and the past few times I've commented around here Bahrain, we've always had some good racing action, but hopefully O'Reilly can get back in the session because he's just left, and he's looking to close down the championship lead on Tony because in the past few races he's been looking very strong, and the gap between him and Tony is 25 points. Now, I've been looking at the championship standings and the race results, and he's been quite unfortunate because the closest he's been to Tony is 7 points. But obviously he had a DNF somewhere along the course of those races, and ever since that he managed to close down the gap. He had a DNF back in USA. Tony recovered really well. Hungarian Grand Prix, he won the LP like Esteban Ocon did last season, 2 years ago actually. I can't believe that was 2 years ago. No way, that was 2 years ago. But anyways, time flies. But yeah, O'Reilly, they're looking for a comeback drive after he won out last time at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and let's see what he could do then, as we've got some cars then making their way out of the pit lane onto the circuit. There's 5.4 kilometre circuit here in Bahrain with 15 turns, and a driver that's returning here tonight is Ferg, Relentless Ferg. Oops, sorry about that. Good evening, Nathan. And Nathan says it's a wet race, and yes, I fully believe it's a wet race. Well, it's going to be very interesting around here in the hot desert. But yeah, Tony is the first man out on the circuit, our championship leader, who leads by 25 points. He only needs 30 points for a win, as O'Reilly has joined the session.
Indeed, indeed. Interestingly about Aurelian, he actually qualified for the esports event on F1 League, where you had to be in the top 10 or something to qualify for this event, and he managed to do so, so congratulations to him. There was some talks about him wanting to move to Williams since he got appointed to Williams for esports challenges, so there were some rumors about him potentially going to Williams alongside Tony, which would have been a disgusting lineup, but that offer got rejected. So, but interesting to see the quality of the drivers improving and having an esports challengers driver in here. I remember a couple of seasons ago that we had many assist drivers still in this league, and you can see now the quality is definitely improved with, I think, pretty much half of the grid now being no assist, and of course one being in the esports challengers league. So the quality has really improved in this league over the last couple of seasons, because if you compare now, tier 2 would be kind of close to tier 1 from a couple of seasons ago, so just sums up the quality has definitely improved quite a bit, but tier 1 has for sure got a lot stronger.
I agree with you on that one, Stephen. There's a lot of drivers have got quicker and improve on their race pace as well. And one ball with Tony, he's on flying lap, and his first set says a 28.2 as he swings the car around in each corner there as we make our way down into turn away. The slow speed corner, then into third gear we go. You can see there, he rotates the car, uses the brakes there. You can see the back of the car just stepping out with a little bit of wheel spin on exit as well as he makes his way through the double left-hander here. Just sacrifice a little bit of the entry to get, the car is sliding around through that particular part of the track. As you can see, wheel spin for good measure too at the exit, which will continue to hurt his lap time as we make our way down into turn number 11, using all the track. A bit hesitant going in there as he makes his way out of it. You can see him taking a much wider line in these corners to get the best possible exit. And we've got Ferrari in the way at turn number 13. Hopefully he gets out of the way as we come out of that corner right now, which is out of the way. And now Tony then continues on this back straight as we make our way down into the final few corners. And let's see what lap time he sets then. He's been a bit scruffy in the middle part of the lap, Tony's lap, but let's see what the benchmark is for everybody to try and set as we make our way towards the lines. It's 28.0 for Tony as we've got more drivers approaching just behind him as the timing screens are glitched a little bit on my screen as I'm not able to choose the drivers I want to, so I have to do the old flicking down the order to see who's next across the line. It is Carl, but AJ then, his Williams teammate, has got up into second place, and hopefully the timing screens have sorted themselves out as they can go on board with the drivers then. So it's Williams 1-2 at the moment with, in fact, Leroy has gone quickest with a 28.0, just beating Tony there by 600s. Liam Karag in P3 there in the McLaren. Nice to see him returning on the grid as Isa Kush, the Singapore driver, has put himself in the 27s then, a 27.9 to take pole position away as the AlphaTauri comes across the line next, but not a centre lap time, so he must be on one or about to start one. Ferg in P4 on his return with a 28.0 despite missing a few races and Ferg being very busy. His race pace and quality pace is still good, so it's nice to see that from Ferg, and that's why he's a champion here in CRL, and he's currently in the top 4. But Bob Pierre slotted into P7 there with a 28.5 with Mercedes or Wouter who goes up into P2 with a 27.9 then, so second driver to go with the 27s with Javud Vizza popping his AlphaTauri into P4. Look at the gaps between P3 and P6 there with the 28.0. The grid is just so narrow, so packed as well. It's just unbelievable with the drivers setting the exact same lap times or almost there to a second. As look at Aurelien, 27.5, separated himself and Isa Kush by 4/10, Steven. Wow.
What a lap there from Aurelien. We were talking about him, of course, being in esports challenges and certainly improving his really impressive pace there, being 3/10 ahead now of Troy, who's slotted himself into P2, but Aurelien's just got more faster throughout the season. Of course, having practiced quite a lot here, and they've got an advantage. So Tony must improve there from a P7 place at the moment with a 28 flat, as he's half second behind his championship rival here. So he must find some time somewhere here. In good luck there from Leroy. It's actually Leroy's got a penalty with Liam. Liam has got a 5-place grid penalty. I'm not sure what happened there, so Liam will go back 5 places from where he is right now, which is P10. Both drivers enter the pits. I'm presuming Liam just hit the back of Leroy there, so that's not ideal for both drivers there. But Leroy certainly has proven to have good qualifying pace lately, but can't get it together in the race, so that's his main aim for the race here, just to keep it clean and improve in his race pace there. He's got the qualifying pace.
Yeah, Hungary was a strong race for him, finishing P5. He was fighting for P3 on the podium between himself, Kenny and Nathan, but unfortunately I think his tyres just died out at the end and therefore couldn't defend from the Flying Finn, who's currently sat in P12, and the AlphaTauri in P9 there. But Leroy had a strong race out last time in Hungary, but I remember the Baku Grand Prix when he qualified so high, and unfortunately it just got away from him there, and I think Red Bull has having problems, and I think he's just entered the pit lane as well, because I saw him on the straight, but he's dived back in the pit lane. I think it was Joshua, as I'm on board with the Haasman of Kyle as well, making his third appearance I think now for CRL. His first appearance with the French GP was Kyle at his debut here at CRL, as now we're making our way into this double left-hander we go. Let's see how he approaches it. And the exit of it as well, used a bit of curb on the outside, but doesn't affect him too much. Short shifted to reduce traction as Carl has left the session down there. P16, unfortunately for him. He's did 2 laps on those set off the soft compound tyres. We make our way now into turn 12. I think he rode the curb there in turn 12 and he gets a decent exit with it. And now it comes to this fast right hander. You want to keep off the curb, but if you are going to use that curb, make sure you put it in the middle, but not on the curb, because that will send you flying. As you went a bit deep into turn number 13, so it might have cost him just a little bit there, Kyle, as we now make our way on this back straight, as we make our way now into this final corner, where it can be very tricky indeed, because obviously the tyres have been through a lot on that lap. And you can see they're riding the curb as well on the exit of it with DRS enabled for the Haas. It's going to be a 28.6, and unfortunately that's good enough for P18, and yeah, a lot of times we found there from Kyle. However, in the Alfa Romeo, Eros Snoken in P18, if I pronounced that correctly or not, I'm not quite sure, so bear with me. But he's currently on a flying lap. I think he's on his second flying lap, as he did invalidate the first one when I went to board with him. So this is his second flying lap in the Alfa Romeo here on the same set of the soft compound tyres. He's now making his way towards the final corner. You can see there, using the throttle and the brakes at the same time, as EOS Snooker is making his way towards the line now. It's going to be a 28.5, and that's just good enough to be P16 there. Not much in it between those guys, but obviously a tenth or two can gain you massive amounts of positions. As Leo in P20 there, looks like he went for a lap time, but unfortunately for himself, oh Joshua, what have you done, mate? You've picked yourself up a penalty with a collision with Jeroen Visser. So Jeroen's on the outlap. Where's Joshua? Joshua's on the outlap too. So yeah, I wonder. Joshua, I think he's lost an end plate. And Jeroen's got a 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking then. So bit of drama going on here in this qualifying session, as some drivers on a lap time, Isa, Kush and Tony. Did you see that, Stevan?
I didn't manage to see it, but quite a lot of sloppy driving happening today in this qualifying session, since there's 3 drivers now with 5-place grid penalties here, which is definitely what we don't want to see. So hopefully drivers can fix up for the next session, for the next qualifying session next week, because it's gonna really hurt you, since overtaking is not easy here. So hopefully drivers can fix up here. I'll take over, Jamie.
Yeah, in turn 11, I think Tony got on the throttle too early and his rears lit up, and he had to back out of that lap time, unfortunately. So Tony's second lap on the set of soft compound tyres is ruined by turn 11, and he'll have to back out of that one. So what will he do? Will he dive in the pit lane? Will he cool down the tyres? Because obviously he validated in the last sector, and obviously the tyres have been through a lot, with a lot of heat, a lot of energy into them as well. So he can't really go for it again, his second consecutive lap time, because one, he's going to recharge the EOS, and 2, the tyres will be overheated on his second lap. So you don't want that, does the Argentina driver. And here's Choye in P2, who's missed a race last time in Hungary, but he's back now, is Choye, and he's put his car into P2 then. So let's see what he can do from there. Walter is coming across the line to start a flying lap then. So we're going to go on board with the Mercedes driver as we head into turn 1, braking just before the 100-meter board. Used to brake on it, now you brake before it, because these cars, it's so easy to outbrake yourself. And now we're going through turn 2 and turn 3. Used a lot of curb on the entry as we make our way now into turn before we go. Braking at the 100-meter board, hitting the apex through here. Now coming out wide to get a good exit, using all the track. You can see the car just settling there as he gets on the curb. Few hundreds down the first sector, as O'Reilly has improved his lap time with QRT Leroy, who's another man who's gone into the 27s. That's 5 drivers in the 27s, and it's very close between those guys, except O'Reilly there, who's put a huge distance between himself and Troye. So O'Reilly there, man on a charge, as you said, he's joined the esports as well, so that'll probably boost his confidence and pace as well to go with it, and he's doing a superb job so far. So I think Pyro, our championship leader, has to watch out for him, because he could be a threat. And I know O'Reilly's been unlucky this season, because he got taken out at the Dutch GP with Choye, and he got taken out in USA as well, and he lost a whole bunch of points there. So lots of times when the championship has been swung around, and I think an Aston Martin has gone for a spin at the exit of turn number 1. I think that is Ferg, because the other Aston Martin's in the pit lane. So unfortunately Ferg has probably picked up the throttle too early and went for a spin on Bob Balter then, as he makes his he went off the track and exceeded track limits there, so that's the end of his lap time, so we can't see what it was for him. Bob Pierre up into P8 with a 28.0 there for himself, so he puts himself inside the top 10. Anybody else out there improving? We've got rotation, a few hundreds down the first set to CPI Choye coming down to turn 1. I think he's just completed a lap time because he's quite low on the EOS. Jeroen Visser has popped his AlphaTauri into P2, but unfortunately he's got a 5-place grid penalty hovering over his name, so that'll definitely his good performance there will be undone due to that 5-place grid penalty. So the illegal blocking there has cost him a lot. It wasn't too illegal, because he wasn't really blocking. They were both on their outlaps, and Jeroen wasn't really backing him up. He was just going slowly as you would on an outlap. So is Joshua, but the game thought Jeroen was blocking. From my eyes, it wasn't blocking. He was just doing what you usually do on an outlap. So quite harsh for the game to give Jeroen Visser a 5-place grid penalty. However, with Josh's case, I'm not quite sure what happened to him or Jeroen, so I can't really comment on what happened to Josh's penalty there. But Leo coming out the final corner now, he's quite low on the ERS. I think he's struggling just a little bit. Is the ILP driver, he pops himself into P14, does Leo, and he was the Monaco Grand Prix race winner a few races ago. So Joshua, the only man that's not set a lap time, as majority of the drivers then are in the pit lane.
Indeed, waiting for the final runs now after there's 4 minutes and 30 seconds left of the session here. You were talking about Jeroen just now, and he hasn't had the greatest qualifying sessions throughout the season, and when he picks up a penalty, he's in P2 currently, so maybe he has to pick up a penalty for him to have a good qualifying here, because he's currently P2, a 10th ahead of P3, which is Troye here, so maybe that's a new tactic for Jeroen here. And overall the top 8 of a second till 10th here are very close here. It's only 2 tenths in between them. Aurelian is just in a league of his own right now, but the rest are very close here. The league is so competitive here, as Tony started his final run earlier than normal, as actually going for a second run. He's probably just managing feel here, going towards the line now, starting his final run.
Here we are then on board with the Argentina driver on a brand new set of the soft compound tyres. We're heading towards 330 kilometers an hour, about 200 miles per hour. Heading to turn 1, you can see him used to cover the outside. You can see him locking up, going there a bit deep there. Didn't really hook up the apex through turn 1. Coming through turn 2, didn't use all the curb in turn number 3 there, did Tony. So what I want to watch out for, because a lot of drivers use all the curb in turn 3. Coming into turn number 4 then, let's see how he takes it. Kissing the apex in turn number 4. Going out wide as well, on using the curb, and now coming through the right-hander and left-hander, just flicking it in through the corners now. Going into turn number 8, let's see if he uses all the track on the entry. Yes, he does. Swings the car in, rotates the car. You can see the back end just stepping out a bit there as we head into turn number 9 and turn number 10. There's double left-hander. It's very easy to lock up a left front there, but puts the car in, and you can see the back end of the car just stepping off, just wheel spinning on the exit there as they make our way down into turn number 11, then braking just before the black box on the entry into 5th gear we go. Some drivers usually like to use 4th gear for the extra rotation, and now we're coming flat out in this right-hander. Going through turn number 13, 5 tenths up is Tony, so he best hope he can keep it clean, because these 5 tenths can put him into P2 then. So Tony there, got to keep his nerves, make sure it doesn't get the better of him, because I know a lot of his heart be racing there, has been setting a very fast lap time as we make our way now towards that final corner. Did he suffer a bit of wheel spin? I'm not quite sure, but here comes Tony there across the line. What's it going to be? It's a 27.5, and he puts himself up into P2 then, so Tony can relax just a bit now as he puts his car into P2, as majority of the drivers are coming out the pit lane then, so he's lucky to avoid all the traffic there because he was out of sync. So let's see then who's on a flying lap then. I think OP Liam in P13 is on a lap time. He's 1 tenth up in the first sector, but we've got quite a few cars around us. A majority of the drivers on the track are on an out lap, barring a few, which is Liam, AJ and Tony, who's on an in lap. 1 minute 40 seconds left to go there. Tony decides to go for early to get the track to himself, but he'll be in the pit lane watching along to see if anybody beats him in P2, as all the drivers then are on the track, and Joshua, the only man that's not set a lap time on the board so far, the highest driver on an out lap in the field, is Isaac Kush in P7, and he's on the back straight while we're watching Liam. Oh, Liam there, 3 tenths up in the middle sector, but unfortunately just suffering a bit of understeer there. Is the tyres overheated a bit for his liking? I'm not quite sure, but that lap time has been undone, and I don't think he can go for another lap time, because if he does go for a lap time, those tyres will be done for sure, despite doing 1 lap, because the heat in them will be just too much for the tyres to handle. Therefore they'll slide around. It'll be a 27.8, and that will put him into P5 with his teammate, but that lap time does not count. So unfortunately for him, his qualifying is done and dusted, and he'll watch from the sidelines as well. On board with Relentless Ferg in the Aston Martin. It wasn't Isak Kush, it was Ferg. He spun at turn number 3 last time, but I think he kept it nice and clean as Tony's retired in the pit lane, as you will watch on. So here is Ferg going a bit wide into turn number 8. I say taking a very wide line, but unfortunately that's a bit too wide for the game's liking, and exceeded track limits for good measure. Joshua spun coming into turn number 13 there, and unfortunately he won't get a lap time on the board. He will, no he won't actually, and I don't think he can do 1 more lap either, because he's very low on the ERS then. So our main competitors on the circuit then, let's see which drivers are improving then, as all the drivers are out of the circuit except Tony, who's watching in the pit lane, or Raylan a few hundreds up in the middle sector. Where's his rivals. Jeroen Visser is on the third DRS straight as we make our way down into turn 11 we go. Let's see how he connects it very nicely indeed. Back on the throttle we go in 5th gear, now coming through this flat out right-hander here. Let's see how much time he's found in this middle sector. He's 1/10 up in this middle sector and he needs to find a bit more time. Oh, he's spun coming out of the corner and he's hit the wall too. He is out of qualifying, and that's his qualifying done and dusted, unfortunately. And yeah, probably picked up the throttle a bit too early there, maybe got the curb. And a few hundreds up is Tony Chourier in this middle sector there. As you can see, the stricken AlphaTauri, where Latifi parked up in 2020 as he retired from that race with a engine problem. As now Chourier coming towards the final corner, then let's see if this man can try and get second place back, because he was a few hundreds up. That wouldn't have been enough to take P1, but he makes his way towards the line now. It's going to be a 27.7. It does improve, but not his positioning, so he stays P4. Leroy's gone for a spin, and that's his qualifying done and dusted. Isak Kush, he's a few hundreds up in this middle sector. Wouter, I think, is right behind him, so keep an eye on these two. And now Isak Kush making his way towards that final corner then. Let's see what lap time he could set in the Aston Martin. He could get anywhere near the front. Wouter is a P3, that's the other Mercedes behind him, I think, with Kenny. Here comes Isak Kush. Doesn't improve, he stays in P8. Where's Kenny? Kenny's crossed the line and he stays in P16 then. So the man who qualified, well, the man who finished on the podium last time out in Hungary, is only P16 unfortunately for him, but he did comeback drive in Hungary from P11 to P3, so can he do the same here? Qualifying's done and dusted. Aurelian's on pole.
Well, qualifying session there with Aurelian setting a very fast second run there, which wasn't enough for Tony to beat him for positional pole there. But Tony still did a good job there, as he was in P10 and still improved by half a second. If he improved on his final corner there, then he could have potentially beaten Aurelian, who didn't beat it, or who didn't improve in his final run, I think, at least. And then Wouter as well, he's in P3, so nice job there from him. So he's for sure in the mix for the race win as well. And these guys have been battling out front the entire season here, so I'm certain that we'll see another great battle between these three quality drivers.
And with the grid being so tight between P3 downwards all the way down to P11, it's going to be an interesting fight between those midfield there. Can Wouter try and close in on Tony and Aurelian? The man's got some good race pace and consistency as well. He crashed out unfortunately at the Hungarian Grand Prix twice. The first one is at turn number 3, I think it was. The second one was at turn 3, but this time he lost his wheel. So can he make a comeback drive and try and gain some valuable points he lost at the Hungarian Grand Prix? Jeroen in P4, but he'll start down in P9 then. There's your results. And unfortunately both Red Bulls are in last place with 3 drivers picking up 5 players grid penalties, but they won't matter to Josh anyway because he'll start down in a P20. Lucky to reserve in P18. Hopefully he can find some good race pace in that Ferrari. As we know, he has good race pace, but not some strategy cause, because at the Hungarian Grand Prix that he stayed out there on the hards and he cost himself big time as everybody was budged up, and once he made his pit stop he was too far behind to make any sort of impression anyway, and he fell outside the top 10. So let's see what he could do from P18 there, if he's got the race pace to go with it. Sieb de Margel is not here, unfortunately, with us tonight. It is Liam Carrag, who's in the other McLaren. But let's see what Liam Carrag do. I think he was involved in a last lap fight a few seasons ago. It was Liam Carrag, Cameron Dowds, and Total Peas. I think those 3 were fighting for P1, and I was commentating with Fandango that evening too, and what a race that was. I was watching it, I remember it too from memory, and I think Po Peas outbroke himself, hit the back of Liam and caused Liam to spin, or was it the other way around? I'm not quite sure, but it was an interesting race anyway. The Mercedes versus the Red Bull of Liam Carrag back then. I think Cameron Dowds won the race, and I remember there was a last lap fight for the podium between DC as well and a few others a few seasons ago, and that was quite a long time ago, about 2 years ago as well. So a lot of history here at Bahrain, and can we see any more here tonight as well, because there's been a lot of races I've commentated in Bahrain in Cone Racing League, and there's too much to remember by, but hopefully this one can add to memory as well, as all the drivers then are off for the formation lap, and I think majority of them on the hard, in fact all of them except Joshua on the hards then. So every single driver except Joshua have gone for the hard compound tyres. Yeah, it's going to be all the drivers on the same strategy until we get to the safety car period. But yeah, some of these drivers won't be dented by the safety car, because obviously they go for the safe strategy under that safety car. Depends when it comes out. Maybe a few guys, maybe let's say lap 8, lap 9, safety car came out. The few guys below Not obviously not the top leading guys because they don't want to lose track position, but let's say from like P8 downwards, those guys go for the medium, do medium. We'll see. They can split their strategies once the safety cars do appear, but obviously it's going to be a one stop from hards to mediums if everything goes to plan without a safety car. But I think it's going to be a fantastic. I think it'll be an interesting race, Stevan, because it always is, and especially a track like Bahrain where we see a lot of fights anyway, a lot of DRS trains and a lot of strategies going on as well. We're about to see what happens in the next 29 laps.
Indeed, there will be a special Grand Prix like the last couple of races have been in general, since we've seen great races lately, so I'm certain this will be a great race as well, and of course the top 3 will make sure to have a quality battle, as Tony is, I'm pretty sure, has gone off the track like 4 or 5 times on this out lap, or this formation lap, so hopefully he doesn't make these mistakes throughout the race. So yeah, for Tony's sakes and of course his championship aspirations here. So yeah, let's see. I think it's an interesting grid. For sure, Ferg replacing Sieb, who isn't here today. He's done a solid job there. I haven't seen much of him. I'm pretty sure this is his first race today of the season. So hopefully he can do well in the Aston Martin. His teammate is in P7, Ishad Kush. Hopefully he can have some solid performance to maybe slot back into the championship battle here, but it will be very difficult for him as all his rivals are way ahead, as he's actually doing a Fernando Alonso. He's not done great parking, but he's certainly out of his box there, interestingly. So interesting to see that as we now the cars are lining up for the start of this Grand Prix.
Number 19 of Wouter there, out of grid position like you said, but we'll see how that pays off for him with that gold helmet of his as well. A few drivers getting disqualified, as all the drivers in the lineup is the Frenchman of Oralen on pole position ahead of the Argentina of Tony, with the Dutchman in P3, but we're about to find out. 6 different nationalities in the top 6 there. As we're about to make our way then off the lights, and Orvin there gets a decent start, immediately goes on the inside to defend. Walter gets a good start, he passes Tony as we make our way down into turn number 1 we go then. But you can see Walter putting a challenge on Orvin. He runs out of road and unfortunately has to go off the track, but will he try and fight it back down the inside? Here comes Tony around the outside, a bit of wheel spin on the exit. They go side by side there, coming out of turn number 3. We head down into turn number 4. There's an Alfa Romeo spinning in the background as we can see Tony still alongside Wouter, trying to stick around the outside as the Dutchman, but with Tony, he reclaims P2. We can see QLT Leroy putting a challenge on Troy A. He moves himself up into P5. Does Leroy? It's a good start from the Irishman. I think he's made up 2 places. Has Leroy. There comes Tony and Wouter then side by side once again in turn number 8. And Wouter went down the inside of Tony, gets better traction, but will Tony try and take the inside line now into this next corner? They can't afford to battle too much going side by side like this, otherwise O'Reilly will pull away from them both. And I think Wouter went off the track as Tony reclaims the racing line. He moves himself back into P2 then ahead of Wouter, so those two can't afford to fight too much and try and follow each other instead of fighting, otherwise that'll give Orvain a big advantage and pull away, but the gap is 7/10 nevertheless. So further down, Snoken was the man that spun. AJ's down to P19 then, so horrendous start there from the Williams, who started inside the top 10. And he's got a lot of work to do from there. Joshua, however, got a good start from P20 to P15, replicated what he did in USA in the wet conditions. We led the race as well in those wet conditions. But we're heading off lap 2 then, lap 1 into lap 2, with Orvalen setting the fastest lap of the race. And QRT Leroy is right behind Wouter there, so he made up a place off Troy A and Jeroen. And there he goes, down the inside of the Dutchman into turn number 1 then. And let's see who makes it out on top of this battle. Will it be Wouter or Leroy? They're going side by side once again, but Leroy gets forced off the track there. Not enough room for Leroy to go side by side there, and unfortunately has to stay in P4. You can be very careful because it's so easy to spin, especially when you gravel on the curve like that with the back end of the car stepping out on you. So he's looking to get away with that one as he remains in P4 then. So he put a challenge on Wouter on that lap, but however it's Aurelien leading with Tony behind in P2.
Interesting, we had a clean start today. Most of the battling happening down in the field, in the low field here. Only Cal pitting for a new front wing, probably in the Haas here, as Jasper is not driving. today, so Cao is replacing him, and seems to have the same luck as his other driver he's replacing, so that's quite unfortunate for him, but mostly it's been a clean start there. Tony and Wouter going side by side there, but managed to keep it clean even though Wouter went off track there using more than the track here. Probably didn't pick up a warning because this game is stupid, but doesn't matter because both drivers kept it clean and are still in the DRS of Aurelian here. Leroy went down here instead of Wouter there, had a good move there, but just didn't have the traction, and Wouter was slightly ahead, so just squeezed him off. But Leroy didn't spin out, so and he's still in the DRS, so hopefully Leroy can keep it clean. Jeroen set a fast lap with a 32.6, but hopefully Leroy can keep it clean and stick up or keep it up with this top 3 here.
Now that the DRS is enabled, then all these drivers will be bunched up together, creates a huge DRS train. There's a Red Bull in the background that got out of shape. Was that Carl in the background there just going out of shape there? There's Reservoir alongside him now with DRS. They both have DRS on the back of Liam Carrag, and I think Reservoir will win out that battle going down the inside of Carl. Carl trying to stick around the outside, but he can't quite do so. Further back we've got Kenny versus Joshua for P15 and P16 there. Kenny comes out on top for the time being, but Joshua's trying to stick around the outside. He has the inside line for this corner, and he can't quite make it stick because Kenny coming back around the outside. And Bompierre, will he fancy a move up the inside into T8 we go? Yes he does then. Slow speed corner. Joshua should have better traction on those medium compound tyres there, and now they're going side by side. And I think Bompierre wins out of that one unless he outbreaks himself. Yes, he does outbreak himself. But further ahead, we've got a battle for P4, P5. Troye tried to re-overtake Leroy as he lost start to him at the start of the race. And further behind, I think somebody's gone for a spin. That is AJ, unfortunately, who's gone for a spin coming out of turn number 10 there. But yes, we did see Leroy and Troye battle there. So Troye trying to force up the inside of Leroy into turn 11, going for a move unexpectedly on the Irishman, but the Irishman wasn't having that, and he remains in P4. So he started in P6, and now he's up into P4. But how much longer there? Because he's under huge pressure from Troye and Co right behind. Jeroen Visser was so close on the back of Troye last time out. But this time with Troye having DRS, not able to get alongside him, and he remains in P6 and P7. Both AlphaTauris, by the way, had a good start. As you can see there, Nathan and rotation went quite deep into turn 1. However, Tony all over the back of Aurelian then. Is he about to make a move into turn number 4? No, he's not. He stays behind for the time being then, and he can use his DRS to his advantage. Remember, these two are fighting for the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Aurelian was able to break outside the 1 second range of DRS and keep Tony at bay in P2, but this time round, Tony's looked like he's got some pace, and he's putting pressure on the Frenchman there, trying to go for the win here in Bahrain after Aurelian claimed it at the Hungarian Grand Prix, so it should be a good battle between these two. However, Tony's got a big advantage with being in the DRS train and able to stick it in there with 3 DRS zones around here, keeping in contention of the Frenchman, who's not able to pull away due to the DRS train being so powerful around here. So let's see how the Frenchman manages it, but Tony's got a big advantage in P2 as he's able to keep Wilds behind as they all carry the same speed down the straight. I had a race here in Bahrain a few weeks ago, and I know what it's like to be the DRS train around here. Being 3rd or 4th in the DRS train does not pay you any dividends whatsoever because you're just stuck there throughout the whole race. As Liam Carrag overtook Ferg, but he picks himself up a 3-second time penalty, fortunate for him then, so he becomes the first man to pick up a 3-second time penalty. Both AlphaTauris had a decent start. Leo's got a decent start from P4 to P8, and Liam Carrag too from P19 to P11 with that 5-place grid penalty looming over his shoulders, but he's moved up into P11 and made a good start so far, especially Leo as well. But here comes Tony then, the Argentina going down the inside of the Frenchman there, into turn 1 we go. They make slight contact on entry there, but as we come out of turn 1 into turn 2, they're so close, and here comes Tony then. He should have DRS because he was there before the detection point, and Wouter also has a DRS. He overtakes Aurelian too as we make our way down into P4. Wouter pounces on Aurelian, who's lost 2 places in the process. Is he about to make a move? No, he's not. Too far behind there on Aurelian then from P1 to P3 in the matter of 4 corners there. Wouter waited patiently, let Tony fight Aurelian, then he pounced on himself, moving up to P2 then, and unfortunately Aurelian there lost 2 places, having no DRS whatsoever after getting pushed out wide in turn 1, which allowed Wouter to come ever closer and overtake him too.
Indeed, Tony made contact there with Aurelian.
Oh, spinner! Spinner!
Go on, Jamie.
There's a spinner, it's an Alfa Romeo, and it's QRT Leroy who's lost it. Coming out of turn number 10 that is. And has he picked up any damage? I'm not quite sure because quite a big spin. but did he make contact with the wall? I can't quite see because it's not showing me the off-ball cam. But Walter has overtaken Tony. Now Aurelian's overtaken Tony too, so Tony must have made a mistake there. Apologies about that, missing that one. But they're going 3 wide on this short straight. Who's going to back out of it? Because there's DRS. One of them's going to have to back out of it. You can see it all back out the throttle there. Aurelian takes the race lead away from them both. And look at Troye. It's going to be a drag race. That's turn one. This could get ever so close. Here comes. Oh, Walter's the pit lane. Must have picked up some damage then. They must have made contact somewhere. Maybe braking too early and therefore picked up damage. And here comes Tony then with the DRS, trying to go around the outside of Aurelian. Aurelian has the inside line, but he'll be exposed now with Tony and the company behind him having DRS. Nathan's overtaking rotation. In fact, he's defending from rotation right behind him. They're dropping out the 1 second range of DRS zone. They can see him there battling in the background with Leo fighting as well. Leo's overtaking rotation, so he's taking 2 cars for 1 there. They're still going side by side right now. Into the shot we go. Turn number 4. Rotation versus Leo. And who comes out on top of this one? Leo going around the outside. Oh, there's a spinner! Who's that? It's the Alpine of Aurelian there. So Aurelian has gone for a spin. And championship contender has dropped into P4. Thankfully for him, hasn't lost a lot of positions. But with that DRS train being very so close, with the dirty air as well, has cost him. This is drama here, Steve, and a lot of things have gone on so far. And Walter has came to the pit lane to put on a brand new set of mediums on the car. So I think he picked up some wind damage, don't you think?
Indeed. Actually, Bowser didn't replace his front wing there. He might be on a 2-stop strategy if he didn't change the front wing, which would be a weird strategy since it's a standard 1-stop here for pretty much every track here. But he's going for an alternative strategy here since he probably thought, oh, I'm gonna pick up damage. I might as well pit, get some clean air, and then push. Then and hopefully when those guys pit, I've got some advantage. And then you can use another set of fresh tires here. So let's see how Bowser will progress throughout this race here. It looks like I think Aurelian might be struggling a bit with setup since he did look like he lost the car quite a few times throughout this race. So he might have tire temps a bit too high there. Hence why he's losing the car throughout it. We saw in the background rotation overtaking Leo here. So rotation again having a strong race here up to P5 now. Hopefully he can catch up to Aurelian now and be in the battle for the top 4 here.
Walter is back in the pit lane. He's put on his old set of hard compound tyres, so that's an interesting strategy. You usually do this under a safety car, but we're not under safety car conditions. So Walter they're going. I'm not quite sure what his strategy is. I didn't see him change his front wing in that pit stop, so that's an unusual strategy there from Walter. But he comes out the pit lane then in P20, and I wonder what's going to happen. And there's a Red Bull's gone for a spin, cut out of turn number 8. That's where Hamilton lost it all those years ago. A few drivers have been known to crash there as well. Such an easy corner to drop it on the exit, and he's one of them tonight as well. So I've dropped off the exit myself. It's so easy to do coming out on that corner. But yeah, with a big DRS train. However, Aurelian there, despite spinning, has caught up to this DRS train. Bompia himself has gone for a spin coming out of turn number 10, but we go back on board with the leaders there because they're ever so close then as we make our way out of turn number 15 there, the last corner, heading on to lap 8 out of 29 there. 21 laps to go in this race. Tony still leads ahead of Troye in P2, Drew Visser in P3. Despite having that 5 place grid penalty, Visser is still there to contention for a win as well, so keep an eye on him. He's got some good pace in that AlphaTauri. Both AlphaTauris making good places up, but Rotation's lost it, and where is he? He's gone for a spin coming out of turn number 1 then, so Rotation there unlucky once again. He had good pace in Hungary, but unfortunately there has just dropped the car as Kenny has overtaken Rotation now. Up into P11 he goes. He's actually fallen down into P12, so he lost a lot of positions there. Did Rotation. I was on board with the Ron McLaren. I think it was Liam I was on board with, fighting with Resify for P9. But Kenny then, last week's podium sitter, finished, well, is in P11 right now, trying to reclaim some lost ground in qualifying after had a miserable qualifying start to P16. Has put himself into P11 ahead of Rotation. But yeah, this is an interesting battle going on for the top 6 here. Well, Leo's out of it by 2.3 seconds there. Leo, let's see where he started, because I know he started outside the top 10. Yeah, he did. He started P14 and now he's up to P5. So Leo there, having a slow recovery drive in P5. And let's see, can he join this DRS train? He's 2.3 seconds out of Aurelian's DRS there, so there's a lot of work to do. He's got Isak, Kush and Nathan right behind him too for good measure, so it's going to be difficult for him to try and close in on Aurelian there. Maybe he can help Aurelian because he's been under pressure by Isak Kush. So Isak Kush has DRS on the Alpine driver and breezes past him with no trouble whatsoever. And Isak Kush moves himself up to P5 third. So can Isak Kush now try and close this gap down to under a second and try and bring Leo and Nathan back into contention? Liam Karag in P8 had a good start from P19 to P8 already. So after the 9 laps had a good race, but he has got a 3-second time penalty though. But I don't think he'll care that much because he's done a good job as Joshua has picked himself up now a 3-second time penalty of this race.
Indeed. As Isak has overtaken Leo here, so let's see if Isak has got the pace to catch up to the top 4 here. Of course, it's going to be difficult since all those guys have the DRS there, and there are 3 DRS windows on this circuit here. On board with Isak now, there's a DRS sector coming up now on the main straight, and then after turn 3 there is another DRS zone. So it's very difficult to catch up there. If other drivers are in DRS and you aren't, but actually Aurelian has lost DRS here, so Aurelian seems to be struggling a bit of in terms of pace compared to other rounds here, and this could give the opportunity to Isak here to catch up here, and Leo and Nathan if they can all stick within the 1 second window of each other here. So interesting to see Aurelian struggling a bit compared to other rounds here. So let's see how this race is gonna unfold here, but it looks very good for Tony at the moment to gain some points in the championship compared to Aurelian.
That is very true indeed. And yeah, can Aurelian then, he is hovering in and out of that 1 second range of DRS. He was 9/10 in the last corner, now he's 1.1 due to the help of the DRS from the guys ahead then. So he's still there in contention, but he's just struggling to close that gap down. Maybe, like you said earlier on, struggling with tire temperature, who knows. But Kenny and Rotation going side by side. Kenny wins out of that battle, but Rotation has DRS on the Mercedes driver now with the extra help of the ERS he has on the Mercedes. In the background we can see Bompier and Bompier and AJ going side by side. Rotation makes it ahead of the Mercedes driver. I'm just keeping an eye on a lot of drivers here because I want to see all the battles going on, but it's so close to the top 3. Aurelian is dropped outside the 1 second range for DRS for good now. Can he try and close in though? This battle for the DRS has broken up just a little bit with drivers. Oh, Troye was right behind him, but obviously didn't want to go for the move there. Wants DRS for himself to protect himself against Giroud. So they're barely separated by 5/10. The top 3, that's how close they are, but not the top 3 I was expecting. Well, especially with Giroud there, that started down in a low position than he usually does. But he's up there in P3, looking to try and get his first podium or first win of the season, because obviously he hasn't got one of those yet. So it's nice to see him back there in P3 and showing us what he can do and reminding us who Giroud Visser is as we make our way then on the straight once again with Aurelian just there outside the 1 second range of DRS. Maybe he's struggling with tyre temperature, who knows, or tyre pressures. But he just can't seem to get himself in that 1 second DRS. Will he be under pressure from Isak Kush soon? Who knows? But as we make our way down into turn 1 once again, they remain in formation of Tony, Troye and Giroud. And now Giroud's closer towards Troye than Troye's towards Tony. But this could be an interesting battle between these 3 throughout the whole race. But you can see Giroud just homing in on Troye, just trying to force him to a mistake while making out break himself in the heavy braking zones, but Troye not falling for that one unless Giroud goes up the inside here. No, we know Giroud likes to go up the inside of corners when he sees an opportunity, because that's what he usually does. Every time there's a door open, he'll go through it, no doubt about that one. But that did go through this time as he stays behind in P3. The 2 behind just use the DRS of Tony. But yeah, whilst then down in P20, interesting strategy call. I'm not quite sure what he was thinking. Maybe I didn't see any front wing changes from him, but yeah, that was an interesting strategy call from him. I'm not quite sure what was going on. I thought, like you said, was doing the 2-stop from hard, medium, but obviously he's gone back on the hard compound tyres. He takes those towards the end, but obviously they're not going to be worth anything once these guys switch over to the mediums, because it'll be much quicker than him towards the end. So yeah, interesting strategy call. Maybe he did pick up damage, he didn't see the pit stop, but anyways, he's out of the race, and now we can just focus on these 3 in P1, P2 and P3 fighting for the lead. They just sat in the DRS train waiting for the second stint on the medium compound tyres, and that's when we're seeing more fires, because we're just into a settling phase now, as we had the drama a few laps ago, and now we're just quieting down until the drama starts again once they put on the set of the medium compound tyres.
Indeed, and this is now the phase where we see drivers starting to undercut other drivers here, as it will be very effective here around this circuit here. I saw in Tier 2 that De Roy actually stretched his medium tires about 16 laps there, so longer than the actual stint he did on the hard tires here. So looks like that the medium tires is a very good race tire. I know it's got more grip, but it seems to be lasting quite a lot of time there. So it wouldn't surprise me if when Bobby picks up a penalty, but it wouldn't surprise me if cars start pitting him out 1 or 2 laps time to go for an undercut here to catch up to the rest of the drivers here. I was gonna check Wouter's pace. He's only about 2/10 slower than Tony's actual pace, so he didn't have damage, so I'm not sure what his actual strategy was. Pitting twice here because he's way down now. I still think he's gonna climb his way back up to about P11, P12 here, but it has ruined his chances here for a podium. So yeah, hopefully he can still catch up, but he's doing a Ferrari strategy, an even worse strategy than Restify did the last couple of races.
I don't know, maybe the Dutchman having fun there in P20, maybe he knows something we don't, but yeah, that was an interesting one, and we're about to find out. Well, it won't pay off, obviously, but we'll see where he ends up in the field, going for that very long straight. Oh, Giroud there got out of shape coming out of turn number 4, got on the curb, the car sliding around, but he kept it on the road, did Giroud. Heart and mouth moment there from Giroud. He almost went off the circuit with a spin, but he saved it for the time being. QRT Leroy went for a spin a few laps ago at turn number 11. He's currently putting pressure on Liam Carrag for P8. Liam Carrag is not quite in the DRS range of Nathan there, so he'll be exposed towards Leroy. But I think somebody went wide off the track there. That was the Alpina Leo who went slightly wide coming out of turn number 11, I think that was, or turn number 10. I think this is turn 11 now, and turn 12 is that fast right-hander where we see a lot of people go for the odd spin there as they take too much curb. You don't want to be taking a lot of curb through there. We've seen plenty of people spin there in the past. But yeah, Leo there getting away with it by not picking up a 3-second time penalty, going wide as we make our way now going on to lap 14 of this race with the formation with Tony, Troye and Giroud. It's just going to be very interesting to see which one of these guys pit. Will it be Giroud Visser who decides to go for a pit stop, because he's currently last in this DRS train. Obviously he can't do anything about it being stuck last in a DRS train because they're carrying the same speed effectively down the straight as each other. It's only Troye that can do something about it, obviously, because he's got DRS, but obviously he's just savouring that ERS later on in the race. We've got an Aston Martin Ferg further down in P17, he's gone for a spin. But he gets back on the track with no front wing damage, thankfully for him, so he could continue on his way on those medium compound tyres, probably just overheating a bit. Those mediums, you said when I was on the medium compound tyres, they just faded away quite quickly. I think I was using a setup that was quite quick in the straights, but the medium compound tyres for me died very quickly on me. But Carl went for a spin coming out of turn number 3, sorry, and he rejoins down in P16. No safety cars in this race so far, so good news for the Harveners continuing their stint, because they don't want the field to bunch up. They just want to continue as they are. Or really now running a bit of a lonely race down in P4, just unable to stick in that DRS train, probably due to the setup he has. Maybe those front tyres are overheating slightly, but Liam Carrag could change the whole trajectory of this race by bringing out a safety car, and it is, because he's stranded in the middle of the road and he's lost his wheel too, and the safety car has been triggered for the first time in this race by McLaren. And let's see then, all these guys will dive into the pit lane for sure. It's no brainer strategy about it, and into the pit lane they all go on the hards to the mediums.
Well, this ruins everyone's undercut attempt, as we see everyone peeling into the pits, most likely, as it's a free pit stop pretty much there. Everyone switching to a set of medium tyres here. Will we see a switch between the top 5 drivers in? Probably not. No, Troye keeps it in second place there. But yeah, it's a free pit stop for everyone here, so this ruins some sort of strategy everyone's trying to do here. But let's see how this race will open up now. Of course, I think the safety car restart will be very chaotic here. As indeed everyone's pitting right now, but let's see how the safety car restart is gonna go. But this does allow everyone to save a bit of fuel, as it's not an easy circuit to save fuel on, but this does give all the drivers an opportunity to save some fuel and then push all the way till the end of the Grand Prix. We all have everyone bunching up together now. I can't wait for the safety car restart, like I just mentioned.
It's going to be an interesting one. Which one of these drivers will be very aggressive? It brings Aurelian back into play. P4 now, getting rid of those hard compound tyres he may be struggling with early on in this race. Will he be able to regain his pace and try and hunt those three down ahead of him? He had the pace of the Hungarian Grand Prix to blast away from everybody, but this time he looks like he's struggling here in Bahrain in the Middle East. But now he's on a brand new set of the medium compound tyres. Can he join in on this fight? With Isak Kush, it's helped Isak Kush because the man was struggling out. He couldn't really close in that gap down, but now he's in P5. Will he be able to stay in that DRS train and fight later on in the race? All the field is bunched up. I love a safety car because it bunches all the field up. I prefer a safety car than a virtual, because on a virtual safety car you can't, all the drivers are not bunched up, and if on a safety car everybody's here together. So what can Wilder do from P19, I wonder, because we know he's very quick, and we're just waiting for him to catch up to the back of the grid. What can he do from P19? Well, how many positions can he gain as well in this race? Because he got such great pace, but he just threw it all away by deciding to pit. He didn't want to battle those guys for first, he just wanted to be alone, and that's why he pitted. But he's currently down in P19, and let's see what he could do from there. Then he'll be a man on a mission in this race, and let's see how many positions he can gain up towards the end of this race. So lap 15 out of 29, the whole trajectory of this race has been changed, and like you said, nobody been able to do the undercut on each other as they all remain in formation. I think a few drivers lost out because their teammates had to pit behind them, so I did see Leo lose a few positions there towards Nathan, as Leo had to double stack behind his Alpine teammate, and therefore Nathan was able to jump him in the pit lane. QRT Leo was back into P6. Remember, he had that spin a few laps ago, so he was quite further down, but now he's in P6 there. Can he try and regain something from this race? I think he started in P6 actually, and let me go check right now. Yeah, he did start at P6, so he hasn't lost anything or gained anything, so he's back where he started. But with that spin, hopefully he can put that behind him and go upwards from there in P6, because he's showing some good pace so far. Obviously just probably a lapse of concentration, or maybe the tyres just stepping out on him, maybe the tyres have heated, who knows. But maybe just a plain mistake by himself, losing the car, and thankfully didn't hit the wall, because that could be so easy to get front wing damage or lose a wheel there, especially with the speed he was going as well into the wall. Could be a heavy impact, but he just managed to avoid it and therefore stay in P6. But who else has been a standout for me? Nathan's done a good job at P7, had some decent pace. I know in the last few races or this season he's been outside the top 10 quite a lot, and he's currently there with P7. He finished in P4 last time in the Hungarian Grand Prix, and now he's up into P7 then. So in the top 10 is Nathan, and let's see who else is there. Leo as well, P14 he started. Let me go check that right now. Yeah, it's P14 he started. He was in P5 at one point. He had that battle of rotation, Nathan and Leroy, and he finds himself in the top 10 as well. Rezify also in the top 10 because he started out in P18. He had a horrendous qualifying, and now he's back up there in P9 then. So Rezify claiming a few points and positions as well. As Evans Joshua has gone for another pit stop to get the freshness off the tyres and get the warmest off the tyres as well. I remember he started on the mediums. He was the only man that started on the mediums then, so he's on the hard compound tyres right now, and he will have an advantage there as everybody else is on the mediums around him then, so he'll be suffering once the safety car comes in. But this safety car will go out there for one more lap, so Joshua can dive in the pit lane to go on the medium compound tyres, because I presume he has two mediums elected, and therefore he can go to the pit lane and put on that brand new set and goes to the end, because obviously he won't be able to gain anything from there on those hard compound tyres, as everybody else will be quicker than him. So let's see if Joshua does dive the pit lane, and yes it does. In the background we saw Red Bull go to the pit lane, so he goes on the medium set on the compound tyres. But let's talk about the race so far, because we saw what happened a few laps ago when we went 3 wide into the back straight, and obviously Walter dived to the pit lane there, which was quite interesting because we didn't see him change his front wing. But yeah, that was quite a few intense moments there between Tony, Aurelian and Walter, and whilst those three were fighting, it brought Jeroen and Troye back into play because they were outside the 1 second range of DRS. So thanks to those three fighting, Jeroen and Troye was able to take advantage of that and fight for the lead of the race themselves in P2 and P3, especially Jeroen as well, considering where he started as well. So he's made up quite a few positions and was able to take advantage of those three there, all fighting it out. But I'm trying to rewind to see what went off down there. I know Tony had a slight moment coming out one of those high speed corners. I think it was turn number 11 there. Maybe we went for a slight spin, but saved the car, and it allowed O'Reilly and Walter to come through on him. Then obviously they went 3 wide on the short straight, and that's when they all broke early to try and get DRS of each other. And I think O'Reilly took the lead of the race once again, but Tony was able to get it back due to him having DRS after braking early to get that DRS and move himself back in the lead of the race. But yeah, that's what I could see from this point of view.
As actually Carl has spun out, so he's now down to P19 here. He was in P15 or P16, but due to the spin, he's now dropped behind Wouter, Kyle and Evans Joshua, which is far from ideal for the Red Bull driver here. There's now the safety car coming in this lap. Everyone trying to get as much temperature into the tires. Currently, especially Tony is going to control the field here. When he's going to go, I think it's going to go after the final turn here, as he's taking a very slow approach here. Very slow. Everyone's just bunching up each other. You can't go side by side anymore. This rule has been changed last year after Verstappen did it. Actually, Tony's gone now into the final turn as the restart is going on now.
We're about to switch up the tempo as Tony there gets squirrely coming out the final corner. He did lose a bit of time as Troye is under huge pressure from Jeroen right behind then as we make our way down this long straight as they're all bunched up right behind each other. Is Jeroen going to go down the inside of Troye? Yes, he is then. We don't need to say that because we know he's going to do it anyway. But Troye has the outside line, converts into the inside line, and he stays in P2. And despite being under pressure further behind, we've got a few cars squabbling over positions there as Nathan is fighting with Leo as they went side by side now. Going down into turn number 4 we go. And let's see who makes it out top. Leo outbreaks Nathan going into turn number 4. Trying to stay around the outside. Can he try and do it? Yes, he can. But there's Nathan still on the inside. He goes there. They go side by side into those slow speed corners, and here we go. Then they're still side by side. Once we go again, go down into turn number 8 we go. Nathan has the inside line on Leo, and he moves himself up into P7, or remains there in P7. So he was fighting from Leo, but they've cost themselves huge amount of times because they're only 1.6 seconds away from Leroy then. So those two squabbling over P7 there has cost him a little bit of time now, and outside the 1 second range of DRS. And let's see if he can try and get themselves back into it. But good safety car restart. Tony there, I don't know if you saw it, but once the safety car went in, coming out the final corner, he did lose the car on the rear just a little bit there, but he saved it and was able to stay in the lead of the race because they're all bunched up right behind. He must have had some good straight line speed there to stay in P1 because they're all over the back of him in the final corner, heading down that long straight and somehow stayed in front of those two behind. But yeah, the top 6 then all in DRS range is giving O'Reilly a second chance in this race to close in, and Isak Kush too, and Isak Kush is right behind the Alpine of O'Reilly there, but obviously they carry the same speed down the straight with the slipstream, but obviously not making any moves into turn number 1. These guys, DRS will be enabled the second lap as the safety car, once the safety car comes in, DRS is enabled the second lap after. And they might be changing that rule for the next few years, I'm not quite sure, because once the safety car comes in, I think it was 1 lap that you're able to use the safety car. I'm not quite sure if that's a rumour or not, but I definitely heard it somewhere. But we'll see if that's true in the near future time. But Tony still leads this race then ahead of Troye, and once we see that DRS come on, that's when we'll see the action happening. Ferg has been overtaken by Walter. Joshua spun further down the field, and Walter moves himself up to P15 then. His next target is AJ ahead of him, with a huge train of cars ahead of us there with a big DRS train. Nathan being the slipstream provider, as he's currently outside the 1 second range of DRS, so he's the second... well, he's leading the second group of the DRS train. He's desperately trying to get himself in the DRS range, because if he can't, he'll find himself with those guys behind me having DRS on him, and he'll be exposed on the straight in the next few laps in this race as well. So he needs to get himself in that DRS range so he can be protected from those guys behind. Otherwise, those guys will have a big straight line speed advantage on him, and he won't be able to ready to the battle with also the lack of ERS as he's trying to close the guys in ahead of us as well. The top 6 as Tony sets the fastest lap of the race. Then yellow flag says Joshua's gone for a spin. And now DRS has been enabled then, so we're about to see some overtaking action very shortly from these guys. With the DRS now being activated, this is where all the action happens.
Indeed, indeed. There's only 10 laps to go now. It looks like Tony's got comfortable at the moment from Troye, who just can't get anywhere near Tony at the moment. It's actually nearly falling out of the 1 second window here. So Tony's got really impressive pace on those medium tires at the moment. And this will give an opportunity to Jeroen if Troye falls outside the 1 second window here. Which doesn't look likely at the moment since he's 8 tenths behind, probably using some ERS here. He's definitely used a bit more than Jeroen here, who's got 70% compared to Troye's 40% and Tony's 30% here. So Jeroen playing the long game here. Same for Aurelian. He's pretty much got the same amount as Aurelian here, and then Eastkush also has got quite a lot here, and then Leroy is also following it. He has used quite a bit of ERS. He's only on 21%, but he is still within the mix of the top guys here. So really impressive pace there from Leroy to keep up with these guys here. Sums up the pace he's actually got in him. So hopefully we get to see some battling soon, but at the moment it's quite comfortable for all the guys within the top 6.
So Leo tried to move on Nathan, the safety car restart. It's a second chance now with the helping hand of the DRS. Should be much easier than the first time round, and he moves himself up into P7 then. So those two fighting has cost him a little bit of time. Like I said, there's 2.1 now, so he's definitely lost a lot of time not being that DRS train and split up from the rest of the guys ahead. So the top 6 will pull away from each other, from the guys behind, as Leo then moves himself into P7. Can he close that gap down? I'm quite sure. He has Nathan now with the guys behind having DRS on him, so yeah, he'll find himself with the guys behind having DRS and closing him down for P7, as he's now the DRS leader of the second group. Further behind, I did see a Haas defended from the Williams there. That was AJ and Bompier swapping out for P13 as Joshua is in the pit lane to go on a brand new set of soft compound tyres or old softs, taking them. McLaren went deep into turn number 11 there. I think it was Rotation who's currently in that fight for P10. Not the fight he wants to be in this evening. He spun coming out of turn number 1 a few laps ago, and he finds himself in a fight for the midfield when he knows he has the pace to be up there, but unfortunately spinning. He did it in the last race in Hungary as well. Hopefully he can sort that out, because we know he's got such good race pace, but when it comes to consistency, just needs to be worked on, like myself as well with the consistency too. So a lot to improve on and to reflect on the next few races. But yeah, Troy has now DRS on Tony after dangerously falling outside of it last few laps ago, but he's got himself back in it now, and now he's in the DRS range. He might want to think about playing the long-term game, like you said, because let's say lap 28, lap 29, that's when he'll go for the move, just save as much ERS as he can, wait for the last few laps of this race, not go for it now, because he knows he's the one that can change the whole phase of this race. He's probably the guy that will determine if the winner of the race, because he's in second place, and he can overtake the leader when he wants to, but obviously not yet, because he wants to think about the long term and not lose. He doesn't want to lose any time towards Jeroen whatsoever, because Jeroen, Aurelian and Isa Kush and Leroy are in a difficult place in the DRS train, not able to overtake the guys ahead because they're all carrying the same speed. So Troy can determine the outcome of this race, and let's see then when he decides to go for it. Would it be later? Would it be a few laps ahead of us? Who knows? But Tony then will have to think about defending from him, because he knows he can't get him out of the 1 second range of DRS, so he's going to have to think about defending from him and trying to determine when he's going to attack. But is it the last lap or penultimate lap? Who knows? But yeah, you're going to have to play some tactics against the Ferrari. But we'll see how it pans out at the end of the race between those 6 guys ahead.
Indeed, indeed. All the drivers are waiting for the right opportunity, as there's still plenty of laps to go here. Of course, there are now gaps starting to appear now. Leroy trying his best within the 1 second window. Used all of his ERS here, but he's still got actually hasn't got DRS, so lost his advantage to Isetkush. Now hopefully he can get it for the second straight there, but I don't think Leroy will keep on with the top 5 now, and this will give an opportunity to Leo now to catch up to Leroy for the battle for P6 here, as Leo is overtaking Nathan, who seems to be struggling quite a bit here. Of course, using no assist here. Has got a difficult pace there at the moment, and Resfire looks feisty right now. We haven't seen at all this race yet. Down in P9 at the moment, as Ferg and Haas has spun out. As Ferg's actually retired now in a battle with Bonepierre. Will this cause a safety car? It does. Ooh.
Well, I was on board with this trio, and it all started at the turn number 1 when Wouter and Bonepierre were going side by side. Remember, Wouter and Bonepierre actually made contact, which caused Wouter's retirement in that race, and unfortunately they've made contact once again. But this time Ferg is out of the race, and they went 3 wide going into turn number 4 there. Bonepierre was in the middle of the sandwich, and I think he lost traction. Then Ferg maybe avoided him, or actually just made contact with him. He went to the wall himself. So Bonepierre, I think, got out unscathed. Maybe suffered a bit of front wing damage. I'm not quite sure, because I only saw Ferg who spun and crashed out of the race. But I think Bonepierre has escaped from front wing damage. And let's see then which guys behind will go for a pit stop on the sauce. I don't think the top guys won't, obviously, because they don't want to lose track position. But will anybody else further down the field decide to go for a pit stop and put on a brand new set or one lap all set of soft compound tyres? Who knows? I don't think anybody will, except the McLaren rotation and Snoker and Wouter as well. Snoken, sorry. Wouter and all of them in the pit lane, they've got nothing to lose essentially, so they're going to make their pit stops onto a brand new set of tyres and get racing towards the end then. So yeah, the safety car is out once again in the second time in this race. Troy was probably thinking about lining up Tony for the lead of the race, and hopefully the safety car comes in with giving us some laps to spare to get some DRS and go side by side, because I want to see a battle between these guys. It's been coming so far. Tony, however, has survived the first threat of the safety car restart. Remember, he lost traction put out the final corner, but was able to keep these guys behind. I think he got some decent speed in that Williams to keep the guys behind. But can he do it again? He needs to control the second safety car restart without any problems and keep these guys behind. He's been saved a little bit, has Tony, but yeah, he'll have to survive the threat once again, because those guys will line up for a pass for the DRS. And obviously he's been in first place. He can't regen that ERS because obviously he's the one out in front, and therefore can't do anything about it, as he's actually going side by side now with Troy, who's showing his nose towards Tony. But Tony then got to keep his wits about him at the second safety car restart in order to get it controlled, as he's led majority of it so far, doing a fantastic job. But yeah, we're about to see then, in the last few laps of this race, who will be the race winner? Will it be Tony? Will it be Troye? What could Jeroen and Aurelien do in P3 and P4 there? They were stuck behind each other with the DRS there. But now the safety cars came out once again. Can Jeroen and Aurelien get a good safety car restart and take the challenge towards Troye and Tony there? But Tony trying to extend his championship lead ahead of Aurelien, who's currently in P4. And the gap between P1 and P4 is 13 points. And that's a handy 13 points needed for Tony, as Aurelien is closing in on the championship. But in the Bahrain race, the pendulum has swung towards Tony's way. There's that good pace. Aurelien, however, ever since he dropped further down into P4 with that little bit of a spin, he wasn't able to get back in there and wasn't able to get that DRS range. But once the first safety car restart came out, he was able to keep within DRS range of those guys ahead. But he's stuck in P4 at the moment, can't do anything about it unless something happens at the front, of course, which we've seen in this race so far. But yeah, he desperately hopes that he desperately needs Tony to make a mistake here in order for him not to gain so many points in the championship, because it's looking that way so far. And if it stays with what it is right now, the gap would be 38 points in the championship, and Tony would have a huge advantage over Aurelien in the next few races. And obviously Aurelien, oh, Isak Kush, did he spin? Oh yes, he did. And he's down in P8. He's Isak Kush dead, so unfortunately for him, made a second mistake in this race, and he's lost a whole load of positions as well. So that's his chances for a podium potentially out of the window, as he's throwing it off the track at turn number 4 there, probably trying to warm up his tyres. But yeah, probably wheel spinning too much there and sliding off the racetrack, and finds himself behind Nathan, Leo and QRT Leroy in P5.
Yeah, unfortunate mistake there from Isat Kush, just ruining the potential he had there, as he was in P5 now, and he's now down to P8 there, and he will have the soft runners from Rotation, Snoken, Wouter, Kyle, all pushing to go forward here, and all these soft runners have got fresh tires and can fully send it. Also, I expect the safety car to come in this lap. The message should come up any moment. Now it doesn't quite yet, but these soft runners can just fully send on these tires, and then hopefully use the tires to full effect, as actually the safety car is staying out for another run here, as Evans Joshua hasn't closed up yet, as Isat Kush is having an interesting safety car period at the moment. But I do expect the soft runners to cause some chaos here throughout.
Yeah, one more lap, the safety car will stay out there because Evans Joshua is delaying them, and I think he went for a spin. That's a cheeky reset track there, because I could see on his track map that the car switched from one place to another, so that indicates that he reset track there. And obviously they won't do those tyres any good by overheating them. Both Red Bulls, unfortunately, having disastrous race down to P17 and P18 there. Hopefully they can turn it around as well. If not, their season so far this season, Tier 2 champion Carl Berg, but unfortunately for him, can't quite convert it to Tier 1. He still needs a bit of adjustment, a bit of settling in as well, a bit more practice. Does the Dutchman in P17 there, and Tier 2 champion currently in Tier 1, and let's see his best results so far this season. I'm going to have a look if I can get the championship standings up for you. Has he been in the top 10? Yes, he has. He finished in P10 at the Dutch GP. That's his best result so far this season. But yeah, he desperately needs to improve in the next few races, well, this season so far. But once the Red Bull Joshua catches up, that's when we'll get some more racing action. Can get going once again then for the second safety car. Carl's best result was P8 at the Monaco Grand Prix, and there was plenty of disaster in that race as well. But yeah, it was Leo who won out after Troye, losing fuel towards the end of the race, had to slow down. But obviously Leo got his penalty removed, and that's why he won the Monaco Grand Prix, not Troye. Troye must have been frustrated about that one. But if the game gave a silly penalty towards Leo, then obviously it can get removed with evidence as well to support it. He's currently in P6 as Leo, but obviously he's got a 3-second time penalty, so with the field bunched up once again, he might find himself dropping all the way down the field. And that's what happens when you pick up a penalty and the safety car comes out very late, because all the field is bunched up and you lose a lot of time once again after the time you made up. And good performance so far from Leo, but it's not over yet. We've got 3 laps left to go. We'll have DRS towards the end of the race. Can Troye put an attack on Tony? As we're about to find out then. As we're about to switch up the tempo once again, we head into this final corner to round off lap 26 there of 29, and now we're coming towards the straight with Troye tucked in right behind Tony's. This is his best chance now to try and get his turn one. He's not using any ERS. He's probably saving up towards the later stage of this race, but we've got the Alpine and Alfa Romeo going side by side into turn one. Down he is, there goes the Aston Martin. Isa Kush makes contact with Leroy. Leroy's into a spin, and unfortunately he's dropped down into P10 there, so Isa Kush late to the brakes. He was trying to overtake Nathan into turn number 1, but instead he got caught up with Leroy, and Leroy there unfortunately being the victim in that one, and now he's fighting with Rotation. But obviously Leroy being on the medium compound tyres, he is surrounded by soft runners. He can't do anything about it, of course, can Leroy. So that's his chances over then for him. He's doing such a good job in this race. He made one mistake earlier on, and that was when he spun coming out of turn number 10, but he found himself back in P6. But all his good work has been undone after Isa Kush just late in the brakes there, coming out of turn number 1, trying to overtake Nathan. It worked because he's overtaken him, but he took out somebody in the process then. So Leroy might be able to get on the phone about that one. He's coming in the back of Rotation. He's putting pressure on Reservoir, his next medium runner in P8. Rotation will be very quick towards the end of this race on the soft compound tyres, so watch out for him making a lot of positions up on those soft compound tyres.
Indeed, indeed. There's only 2 laps to go after this. A good result there from Tony here, who's managed to control the lead again. Has done a very good job today, Tony, using pretty much all of his ERS now. And Troy is actually interestingly saving ERS now, as there will be DRS on the final lap there. So Troy is saving ERS right now to go for a final lap launch, I'm guessing here. As Jeroen's really struggling on these tires now, with Aurelian being really close to him right now, and Jeroen's actually dropped outside the 1 second window. So can Aurelian make a move past now? He thinks better of it, but there's plenty of battling happening in the midfield here.
Yeah, 2 drivers there went for a spin. Walter's gone for a spin. I think Leroy and Walter connected wheels going into turn number 3, which sent Walter to a spin there. So fortunately, Walter is in last place. We saw Isa Kush there, almost hits the back of Leo as well into turn number 1. Then, so plenty of action as we're on lap 28 and 29. Then it is Troye's final chance next lap to overtake Tony. Did it leave it too late? I wonder. But obviously, you don't know. You don't know when the safety car will come out. So obviously, you can't predict that. But you have to use all his ERS as Kenny now is falling down the air. Last week's podium sitter is in P17. Both Mercedes in last place, unfortunately, there. So from hero to zero in one race is the Finn in P18 there. Kenny hopefully could come back stronger, because obviously, last time I raced with him in Bahrain looked quite good, but this time round looks like he's struggling. So yeah, we're not one of Kenny's best tracks, and hopefully he could come back stronger as well. He'll finish in last place, Will Kenny, and 2 retirements so far, which is Ferg and Liam. But we're on to the last lap of this race. Troye has set the fastest lap of the race. He's quite low on ERS. No DRS on this straight, obviously, because it's just been activated. But we'll get DRS on the second straight. He needs a good exit out of turn number 2 and number 3. Will he try and out-drag him into turn number 4? Looks like he's too far behind. Looks like he ain't got the straight line speed either to try and overtake him into turn number 4. I dare say that's his chances ruined, unless he can get some good speed out of the corners to try and overtake Tony. He's quite close behind him, not close enough, unfortunately for him. Will he try and go for one at turn number 11? His last possible overtaking chance, maybe, who knows. But as you can see there, carrying a lot of speed in the corners. It looks like Tony's got more straight line speed, evidently slapped on that Williams. But as we head now into turn on number 10, this is the last DRS zone. He's quite close, but it will be close enough for him. Jeroen has got off the track there. I don't want to risk picking up penalties, because he's done a very good job in this race so far. Jeroen doesn't want to throw away at the last lap, trying to stick within these guys' DRS, just in case they both make mistakes. But yeah, it looks like Troye then will not be able to put a challenge on Tony. Last possible chance to the final corner. If he can try and get a good exit cut out to number 13, be right to the back of him, cut at the last corner, but not the occasion so far. Tony looks like he survived the threat from Troye. He's too far behind to make any sort of move in this final corner. You don't want to risk it, of course. But anyways, Tony has done a fantastic job here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He comes across the line now to win here and secure, with Troye finishing in P2, Jeroen in P3, with Aurelian finishing in P4, and he picked up a penalty, did Aurelian too. Isa Kush finishes in P5, Nathan P6, with Leo in P7. Snoker, I didn't really mention him much to the race. Snoken, he finishes in P8 in the Alfa Romeo, rotation P9, with Reservoir P10. Kyle in P11 there. We're ahead of Carl, AJ, Bob, Pierre, Kenny, Leroy and Joshua, who finishes in last place, unfortunately for him. But yeah, obviously Troye doesn't know when the safety car comes out. He can't predict that whatsoever, so a bit unlucky there for Troye. But Tony deserves that race victory after keeping it nice and clean and good pace throughout the whole race, surviving the threats from the guys behind.
Indeed, indeed. Very good drive there from Tony. Usually just shows it in qualifying, but then struggles a bit more in the race. But today he did it in both sides of the Grand Prix weekend, having gotten second place and then just controlling the lead there. Of course, he had a slight incident with Aurelian there, which definitely changed the race a bit. So that could potentially be a report for him. So, but for the moment, he's driven a very good race there and defended well, looked quite comfortable. Troye didn't really have a massive opportunity there to overtake him, got within 3/10 once and that's it. So a very much deserved winner there from very much deserved win there from Tony, and hopefully he can carry on this momentum now as he's gained some points in the championship and got closer to his main goal.
Yeah, Troye his plan was to attack Tony later in the race with the help of the DRS, but obviously safety car interrupted his strategy, and unfortunately for him, he couldn't take advantage. He just set the fastest lap of the race though, so he'll take a point off Tony, who extends his championship lead now over O'Reilly in P4 by 38 points. Now the gap will be after this race, depending on post-race penalties as well. Good race there from Giroud from P9 to P3. He should be happy with that one. His first podium of the season as well, so nice to see him back on the podium. And yeah, what a race that was. And Tony there came out on top of it. I thought O'Reilly would honestly smash the competition with his pace in qualifying, but not to be so in the race. Maybe his tyres there were just overheated just a bit with the setup, not really matching the race pace either. But yeah, that's it. And it's Tony who came out at the end.
Indeed, well, we saw a very good Grand Prix there today, so hopefully we can have another great Grand Prix like the usual standard has been today. So yeah, let's see. I really enjoyed it today. The overtaking was going to be difficult, regardless. It is tough to save ERS here, but yeah, we'll see. I enjoyed it, and then hopefully next week we'll have another good Grand Prix. I'm not sure what the track is next week, but can you hear me out, Jamie?
It is the Singapore Grand Prix Marina Bay Circuit, so it'll be another night race under the floodlights once again.
A long Grand Prix there. We'll have hopefully no red running, as otherwise we'll have a very long Grand Prix then next week. But today was good. Tony extended the championship lead, and then yeah, I can't wait for next week. Jamie, give us your thoughts of this Grand Prix again.
Saw some good battles, a few impatient people, but that's what racing is really. Obviously with the difference in strategies towards the end of the race, obviously we've seen people on softer compound tyres carrying more speed on mediums, and that's where they got caught out by breaking themselves and carrying a bit more speed than they realised on the mediums, on the medium compound tyres. But yeah, at the end, Tony did a fantastic job to come out strong and defend the threat from Troye, who was in the DRS majority of the race of Tony. Didn't really challenge, but obviously we all know as a racing driver you want to just stay behind as long as you can until the last few laps of the race, because obviously second place is the prime position to be in the DRS train, and you don't want to lose any time from the guys behind, and you want to save up a lot of ERS and a lot of battery as well to attack in the last few laps of the race. But obviously Troye could do that with the safety cars interrupting him, so unlucky to Troye. But yeah, you can't predict when the safety cars come out. And he couldn't do the undercut either. None of those guys could undercut each other either, so didn't have the chance to do that either. So all the strategies went out the window as soon as the safety cars came out. But that's me signing off for Tier 1 at Bahrain. Join me for Tier 3 at the Singapore Grand Prix on Monday at 7:30, and join me and Stevan at 8:30 for Tier 1 for round 12 at the Singapore Grand Prix then. So Tier 1 first, and Tier 3 first, and Tier 1 after. And join us for Monday and Thursday. See you all later. Have a good night. Have a good weekend too, and stay safe.